In this video, we'll look at whether ammonium sulfate, that's NH4 SO4, is ionic or covalent. And the short answer is that overall it's ionic, but it does contain covalent bonds. So let's talk about that. If we look at all of the elements we have here, we have nitrogen, hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. All of those are nonmetals. Because of that, you would kind of expect that this would be a molecular or covalent bond. But we need to take into account how these two polyatomic ions interact. So NH4, this is known as the ammonium ion. The entire ammonium ion has an ionic charge of 1+. We just write plus usually. This is called the sulfate ion, SO4. The whole thing has an ionic charge of 2-. So we have two of these positive charges here. That balances out the 2-, and it gives us a net charge of 0. Because of that, the positive ions, the two ammonium ions, which are positive, they're attracted to our sulfate ion, which has the 2- charge. That attraction forms a bond between ions. We call that an ionic bond. Let's talk about each of the ions for a moment. So when we look at the ammonium ion, the nitrogen and these 4 hydrogens, they're bonded together, and those are covalent bonds. So within our polyatomic ion, we have covalent bonds. The whole NH4+, the whole ammonium ion, it's pretty tightly bonded together, so it'll stay together. Same goes for the sulfate ion. The sulfur and the 4 oxygens tightly bonded together with covalent bonds. They stay together. This whole thing tends to stay together. If you put this in water, it'll dissolve, it'll break apart. You'll have 2 ammonium ions and then 1 sulfate ion, which will be separate from it. That's because this is an ionic bond. So in answer to our question whether ammonium sulfate is ionic or covalent, we could say that there is an ionic bond between the sulfate and the 2 ammonium ions, but within each one of these polyatomic ions, there are covalent bonds. This is Dr. B, and thanks for watching.